Welcome, everybody. This is a committee of the whole meeting of the County of Annapolis. This is a special meeting to deal with internet matters. I'll start with a roll call. District 1.
Bruce Prout.
District 2.
Brian Fuzzy Connell.
District 3 is myself. District 4.
Lloyd Bardo.
District 5.
Lynn Longmire.
District 6.
Alec Morrison.
District 7.
Dave Hudson.
District 8.
Michael Gunn.
District 9.
Wendy Sheridan.
District 10.
Brad Redden.
And District 11.
Diane LeBlanc.
Thank you, everyone.
Warden,
Yeah.
could I just ask you just for a moment to hold? I see Councillor Prout is trying to log back in on his computer.
You can.
I think you can hear me.
Yes, can you hang up your phone?
I'm going to hang up the phone.
Thank you, David.
Do us a test, Bruce. 1, 2, 3.
4, 5, 6. I want to go a little higher than 1, 2, 3.
Okay, good. We're on.
Thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
All right. So I'm going to turn the meeting over to our CAO, Mr. Coutinho.
Thank you, Warden and members of council. The agenda is quite simple this morning. I'm going to get our Director of Municipal Operations, Steve McGinnis, to lead us through the morning. This session, of course, is to respond to all of your queries regarding the internet project and the status, where we are. We've got several players here from Seaside Communications, Eagle Telecom, and Hatch. So we've got all the technical expertise here to address the issues, but they will be doing some presentations, and this is probably the last you'll hear of me for a little while. Steve is going to take the show from here. So Director Steve McGinnis.
You're muted, Steve.
Good morning. First thing this morning is going to be 2 presentations this morning, one by Eagle and one by Seaside. They're going to be about 20-minute presentations, and we did some trial runs yesterday with it, and I'm going to recommend that councillors make note of their questions and let them go through their complete presentations, because I suspect a lot of the questions may be answered as they go through the presentations. So Eagle Telecom is our constructor, and Seaside is going to be responsible for the operation of the system. I'm going to let the representatives from those individual companies introduce themselves, or at least introduce the presenters, and we'll go from there. So first up is going to be Eagle Telecom, and Grant, if you want to take it over from there.
Am I able to share my screen, please?
Should be.
You have to do that at the bottom of your screen.
I see. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are you able to see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
So good morning, Warden Parish, members of the council. My name is Grant Croson, and I am the single point of contact between Hatch Engineering and Eagle Telecom for the Annapolis County Fiber to the Home project. And with me this morning is our COO, Eagle Telecom, Dan McCarthy. As an introduction, Eagle Telecom is the telecom and engineering and consulting company with offices in New Brunswick, Dartmouth, St. John's, Newfoundland. We have a satellite office in Ontario and an office in Cape Coral, Florida. Eagle specializes in fiber infrastructure design and fiber to the home design for various clients throughout the Atlantic provinces. We have 2 additional divisions within Eagle Telecom: Eagle GIS, who manages our GIS and mobile mapping requirements, and a municipal engineering services division. The Annapolis County Fiber to the Home contract was signed in November 2019, at which time Eagle Telecom assumed the role as design builder for the project. In the following months, the County of Annapolis secured the rights to utilize the work performed by the previous builder and establish a non-dominant carrier status to allow the county to attach infrastructure to the Nova Scotia joint use poles. As an overview, the project can be broken down into 5 primary components. Design, permitting, which is also referred to as make-ready, construction, splicing, and the electronics. In the design phase, Eagle Telecom utilizes our mobile mapping capabilities to map the entire 549 kilometers of build as it stands now. When we detailed each pole to determine the homes, multi-tenant buildings, and businesses that can be serviced from each pole. We bring this data back and design a complete network package that is used to submit for permits, determine material requirements, and the electronics needs. The second phase is the permitting, or the make-ready process, whereby the applicant, in this case Annapolis County, applies for permission to attach their facilities to the Nova Scotia Power and Bell joint use poles. Make-ready is a multi-step process where both Bell and Nova Scotia Power visually inspect each and every pole to determine what is required to allow for the additional attachment to the pole. There are 2 primary make-ready applications. The one you see in front of you here is the standard process. The second the process is the water crossing, or class 1 crossing. So in the standard process, Bell determines the location on the pole where the cable will be attached and any physical requirements. Bell then hands off the permit to Nova Scotia Power, who then determine what impact the cable attachment will have on the power cables. And this can range from simply moving the power lines up to make room or actually replacing the pole. Nova Scotia Power also determines the tree trimming requirements to make the required pole work safe and allow for the placement of the new fiber cable. Tree trimming is assigned by Nova Scotia Power to third-party contractors. However, in recent months, Nova Scotia Power has reassigned their in-house vegetation crews in an attempt to address the demand they're seeing province-wide. Any Nova Scotia Power construction work, such as pole replacements, are also conducted by third-party contractors. The second make-ready permit is the Class 1 crossing and water crossings, or navigable water permit. These permits have a considerably longer permit stream. They require full engineering of the pole and consent from the Crown. As well, they move between Nova Scotia Power, the third-party engineering firm, the province, the Crown, then back to Nova Scotia Power, who determine the pole preparation work as required by the engineering firm. Out of the 10 water crossings we have submitted in February 2019, 1 is back from the Crown. One river crossing submitted by the previous builder in 2018 is now at the stage where Nova Scotia Power is completing the engineering to issue the construction package. This will complete crossing preparation so that we are able to go and place our cable. This gives you an idea of the length of time it takes to receive a completed permit. There are 33 primary permits applications that we have submitted in 2020, of which we have received 8 permits to date. We have been told by Nova Scotia Power that they are working to improve this process. Once the permit has been received, the next step is construction. This is the actual placement of the necessary components to install the fiber cable. Once the permit is received, we pass off the finalized build plans to the construction crews that place the cable. Again, it's a 2-step process. First being the placement of a steel cable called a strand or a messenger that we attach the cable to. And that's the little cable, the little wire up here, and it goes up first. That's why you'll see the crews twice in the same area. The second is, again, placing the cable, attaching it to the strand. To date, we have placed 189 kilometers of steel messenger or strand, and we have constructed 119 kilometers of cable. The next step is splicing. This is where we connect the various sections of cable and install what is called the access points, where the internet provider will connect the home to the fiber cable. Splicing is currently underway in the county in CTI 201. And I'll show you that area shortly. And although we are working to connect the cables, we're hindered by sections of missing make-ready that allow us to connect back to the electronic equipment. You will see these terminals in the rural areas, and these terminals here on the right are the terminals we use in the urban areas. Simply because of congestion on the pole line, these are a smaller unit. The next step is the electronics. We're completing the electronic order and build in parallel to the other activities. The manufacturer was selected as AdTran, and there will be 3 locations in the county where the equipment will be placed. These are called head ends by cable companies. Telephone companies call them POPs, and a POP is a point of presence. So in Middleton, at 181 Junction Road, there's a room being constructed to house the equipment. In Bridgetown, at 271 Granville Street East, at the rear of the old City Hall building, we're placing a standalone cabinet with the equipment. And that is this cabinet right here on the right, you can see. The equipment in the POP locations, or the rooms, will look like this in a rack. In Annapolis Royal, at 752 George Street, the municipal building, we're using the basement room 105 for the POP location. The equipment is capable of providing a maximum of 2.4 gigabits download and up to 1.24 gigabits upload, as well as the capability to provide a 10 gigabit service to any business that requires a dedicated service. Each equipment location can provide up to 4,640 subscribers, depending on the configuration of the shelf. This is what's called a shelf, this white box on the left here. As it currently stands, based on direction from Hatch and the county, there are up to 85 homes that have been provisioned for service in the county. At this point, I would like to show you a brief video of our GIS department in conjunction with Esri Canada that highlights the mobile mapping capabilities we have and how the website was developed for the county and the public to track the progress. All of the imagery that was gathered with our camera was provided to the county along with the viewing software. And these are all the routes that we drove with the camera. So I hope that you can hear this. We weren't able to hear it yesterday. Are you able to hear that?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, I'll just, this is Jillian. She's our GIS technician. And she is primarily responsible for the development of our website. And this is the vehicle we use with the camera. It's called an MX7 camera. And it's like a Google camera, it's on steroids. And we can drive highway speeds and photograph all of the surrounding infrastructure. And we take this data back and we can run it through some software, and we can extract all of the pole locations, and all of the images are all GIS located. So they're all accurate to 3 centimeters. So that's about all I can say about that. And I'll just go to the next step, which is I'd like to show you the website that we developed for public consumption. You can see that now. Oh, I'm sorry, I took my earpiece out. Can you see the website?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
I'll just move that out of the way. Okay. So this is the website. We've made a couple of adjustments to it since yesterday on a suggestion from the folks in the county that we spoke with. This is the footprint that is being built. The purple line is all of the cabling. So you can see we keep it up to date. It's updated, well, yesterday. We've also added in toggles that have that tell you the zone. If you click on the zone, It will show you, it'll highlight the zone. And it also tells you the estimated service availability that we foresee now based on the current make-ready trends. So the other functionality that we have on this site is address search. So if I was to type 752 St. George Street, Annapolis Royal, click on that, it takes you right to that location. If you are adjoining the purple line, come close to the purple line, you will be receiving service, or you are capable of receiving service. So each and every zone. So the zones were designated prior to our coming on board. The COM zones are commercial zones, and this is where you have other carriers that provide service. The CTI zone are the zones up here. They are the ones that are funded by the Connect to Innovate program. CTI 201 down here. This is the one that we expect spring of 2021, and we have started splicing in this area here. We're bringing other splicers on board in the next coming weeks to pick up some of the other cable areas that we've managed to construct now. And actually, we're moving along at a fairly rapid pace now. Things have really picked up. So this site is also available on the Seaside site, it's my understanding. And if you click on this link here, you can pre-order service. So it takes you to Seaside site. It gives you a description of the project. There's some overviews and the map and an application form. So the second site we have is for the counselors for the internal. This is a little bit more, it's more detailed. It provides a lot more information on progress weekly. And these links will be provided in the slide presentation that I put together at the end of the presentation. I will email the PowerPoint to you folks. So as you can see, this has a number of pie charts. I mentioned strand. Strand is the steel cable that holds the cable, the cable's attached to. You can see we have 189 meters to date, 189,000 meters, excuse me. And the fiber that's constructed, we have 119,000 meters. And if you look on the map, you can see that the blue corresponds. If you see blue, there's going to be yellow underneath it. All these little green dots are the poles that we've detailed. You can see that these areas are red. These had been identified in the build originally. However, Bell received money from Connect to Innovate, not Connect to Innovate, Develop Nova Scotia, I'm sorry, excuse me. And these areas were removed from the build. It was understood that they didn't want to compete directly with Bell. Bell also received the Port Lorne area. That's why you see a large gap in this area. To date, we have a good portion of CTI 201 completed, and we're currently working on splicing in that area.
So Grant, could you zoom in closer on the poles? Because as we're seeing them, they kind of look like one line. Could you just zoom in close enough to tell that they're individual?
Carolyn, did you let Wendy back in? She sent me a text.
Thank you.
Sorry
So,
about that.
if or when you're using this site, there are a number of layers available. You can see this little layer indicator here. You simply click on this, and it gives you all of the layers that are involved in the drawing. You can take the strand off. You can take the root off. So we're in COM 101. I can take that off of there. Then we're down to just the poles. And I can click on the pole. And it tells you the pole number, its route, it's a mainline pole. We also have
Mainline being mainline versus drop pole.
drop pole, that's correct, yes. The reason we didn't distribute this publicly is because there's a lot of information here that we don't feel that the public is really interested in, I think. So these are indicators, they show multi-tenant dwellings. If you poke on them, it gives you the address, the feeder pole, and the number of units. And this, it says 1 unit, but it's actually it's a business is what it is. So, but what I would suggest is that when you get the link, you play around with it, you have a look. If you have any questions, you can direct them towards Hatch, and I can answer them. And there's a lot of functionality here. We have the pie charts that indicate our make ready, how our make ready, all the submissions returned. There's little toggles here from Bell, Nova Scotia Power. The water crossings returned from Bell, Nova Scotia Power. So like I said, this is updated on a weekly basis. Up here in the top left, it shows you where the crews are working currently this week. If you look on the left, there's the zones. You can toggle to them. They're a toggle switch. It takes you in and out if you just click back and forth on it. At the bottom, there's another tab for the water crossings. It shows you where the water crossings are. For instance, water crossing 2 takes you here. You can poke on it.
You can see that.
It tells you Moshel Brook, sorry. And so there's a lot of functionality, a lot of information for you folks. So
It's view only, so anything you do to it won't affect the data.
that's correct. And in conclusion, I'd like to say that we're very pleased to have this project. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to highlight our capabilities. And I believe as the project manager, we're doing a fantastic job. We're really making some good headway now. And these dates are achievable. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Grant. Again, with the warden's permission, I'd like to move into the Seaside presentation. And again, if you could hold your questions, I think a lot of them will be answered through the presentations, and then we'll open it up to questions in general. So with that, I'll let the Seaside representatives identify themselves, and they can start their presentation.
Thank you, Warden Parrish and council members. My name is Sandra Kanchuk, and I'm the Marketing Director of Seaside Communications. To my left is Angela Bresson. She's our Social Media Relations Manager. And to my right is Dean Addis. He's the General Manager of Seaside Communications. Just to give you a very brief background on Seaside, we're a 100% locally owned and operated organization that began in 1976. We started out providing cable TV to areas around our office on Grand Lake Road, Glace Bay, New Waterford, Reserve. From there, we expanded into telephone and then into internet. Towards the end of the presentation, there's going to be a short video that'll give you a better sense of who we are and what we stand for. And I think nothing I can say could do that video justice, so I think you will enjoy it. So to begin our presentation, we have, can everybody see our screen, our presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
Or I can.
So the municipality of the County of Annapolis and Seaside Communications have come to an agreement whereby we would bring high-speed internet up to 1 gigabit per second upload and download speeds to the residents of Annapolis Valley. There are approximately 8,300 households in the area that can benefit from our service. the municipality and Seaside have agreed to work together, and the county has let the residents know what is happening, that the build is underway, and Seaside, we have launched a dedicated web page, an informational video, and priority service form for your residents. So as Grant had showed you, you can go to the next slide, our web page, it shows the little blurb from the warden, our priority service forms, what's been done with phase 1, phase 2, etc. So phase 1 of the project, phase 1 and phase 2 are both carried out by the County of Annapolis. Phase 1 involves planning and design to make sure the entire project runs smoothly. Phase 2 is where the construction takes place. This would involve the running of fiber optic cables and connection nodes so that residents of Annapolis can access the high-speed internet. Phase 3, this is carried out by us. Once construction is complete, then we can begin connecting customers with high-speed internet. Residents will be notified when the service is available in their neighborhood. Next slide. So I'm going to show you this quick video. This is also located on the website. It just gives residents a very high-level view of what's happening with the project and what they can expect in the future.
Residents of Annapolis County will soon have access to more high-speed internet options. The project is currently underway, and the resulting network will be owned by Annapolis County. The delivery of high-speed internet to our community will take place in phases. The first 2 phases involve
The audio is terrible.
will be carried out by the county of Annapolis. Seaside Communications will carry out the 3rd phase, which will involve connecting customers with high-speed internet. The first phase, carried out by the County of Annapolis, involves planning the design to make sure the entire project runs smoothly.
Is everybody having trouble hearing it?
Carried out by the County of Annapolis is where construction.
Yes,
This involves running fiber optic cables and connection nodes so your neighborhood can access high-speed internet. The 3rd phase, carried out by Seaside.
All right, let's just go to marketing strategy webpage.
Seaside Communications can then begin connecting.
Okay, so that video is located on the webpage. If each of you would like to pop in and view that at some point in your convenience. Part of our marketing strategy involves, we've created a dedicated webpage. You can see the address. At this address, seaside.ns.ca/Annapolis, you will find there an address from the warden, the explainer video, which we just had some trouble viewing, the activation map that Grant just showed you, our priority service form that we developed, and FAQs. So when residents of your county go to our website with the dedicated Annapolis page, part of what they're going to see is a priority service form. So what this priority service form does, once a resident completes this form, it gets automatically sent to us, and we log this priority service form. So when that residence area is connected and we're able to provide them service, then they will be one of the first customers that we contact and say, hello, Jane Smith, we received your priority service form. We are now able to connect you with internet. Would you like us to schedule an install? So this is just a way for residents to feel like they can express their interest in the service and to let us know that, yes, we want to be one of the first people installed. Next slide. The activation map, Grant went through this map with you, and you can see on the bottom left is the link where we connect to the Seaside Priority Service Form. So the activation map, just go back. The activation map that Grant had shown you is the same map that is on our website for residents. So residents are not going to be seeing 2 different activation maps. They're one and the same. So what we will do from a marketing perspective is prior to an area being released, so prior to one of the zones being ready for connection, the first thing that we're going to do is use social media. So we're going to let folks know it's coming soon, it's happening soon, some sort of messaging along those lines, just to get people interested in talking about the internet is coming to their, or the 1 gigabit is coming to their area. This will also be done with a joint press release from the municipality of the County of Annapolis and Seaside saying, yes, your zone is now completely connected. Residents are able to call into Seaside or fill out a priority service form, and we can connect you to 1 gigabit per second service. Another layer of our marketing strategy is once an area has been deemed completed and it's been released to marketing to promote, aside from social media, we will also use door knockers and flyers. The door knockers and the flyers will be issued or given to residents, abiding by any COVID precautions. Phone calls. We also have a list in our database right now of all the residents that are within the footprint of the Annapolis build. So as an area gets released, we will have our customer service representatives contact each and every civic address, and it'll be, hey, just want to let you know, you're able to receive 1 gigabit of service from, the county. Are you interested? Great. If you're not, okay, we'll just keep us in mind. And also we will have posters that can be put up in local areas, local grocery stores, markets, just to increase the awareness, to let people know that the service is available. So what we're doing now. So right now the marketing department we're compiling the list of priority service forms. And to date, we have 346 residents of Annapolis who've expressed interest that they want our service. We're going to keep the webpage up to date. We're in the process of creating marketing collateral for social media posts, door knockers, direct mailers, posters, etc., and preparing our database for the first installs. So this is, I just want to show you this video. This video really does a nice job highlighting who we are as an organization. I hope you can hear this.
We are historic mining towns, fishing harbors, and small coastal communities. We're proud of our past and committed to our future. We embrace the strength of our communities, our families, our neighbors, and our diverse cultures. We're no strangers to challenge. We're always there for each other in times of need. It's the power of community, our community. We know because we live here too. Daily acts of kindness, generosity, and compassion are what make this place so special. And that's why we've been proud to be a part of this community for nearly 50 years. While we work to keep you connected, we'd like to thank you for keeping us all connected. We live here.
So that's the end of the marketing section. I'm now going to turn things over to Dean Abbas, the General Manager of Seaside Communications. And then at the end of Dean's remarks, then we will open the floor to questions. And you'll have the opportunity to ask Angela any marketing questions that you may have or any other questions for Dean.
Thanks. Hello. We're really excited about this project. We think it's a brilliant idea and an innovative way that the county came up with a way to bring broadband to the rural areas. Our catchment area is, for the most part, very, very rural. It allows us to do what we do well, bring service, and it takes what we don't do so well, is building huge brand new networks, out of our hands and puts it in the hands of the experts like Eagle. And so the agreement is very innovative. We recover our cost plus a small percentage. The benefits of ownership accrue to the county almost entirely. So it's, I think it's a very good deal for everybody involved. I did a quick breakdown of, based on Eagle's projections of how homes being passed will be available to receive the services, just to give you an idea of what sort of revenues the project will generate. So in Q2 of 21, Eagle estimates the homes passed that will be able to receive the service will be 1,105. So using like a very conservative penetration rate of 30%, you'll pick up in that first round probably 332 customers at an average of $100 per customer. Revenue in that quarter will be in the $49,000 range. I use 30% as a penetration rate because any greenfield areas that we've built in the recent past, we've hit 30% the first year without really any difficulty at all. So I think these numbers are very, very attainable for the county. So going on from there, by Q3, Eagle anticipates we'll be able to provide service to 2,589 homes. The revenue will increase to the $174,000 range. By Q4, you're at 7,309, which translate to active customers of 2,193 and almost 500,000 in revenue. By Q1 of 2022, you would have completed the build and essentially be able to provide service to 8,538 homes. So that would give you 2,561 customers, I would say at a minimum. And your projected revenue for that quarter would be close to 700,000. Q2, 3, 4, and 2 to finish off 2022 would bring in an extra 2,304,000. So you'd be close to 3 million in revenue by the end of 2022, which without knowing all the details of your behind the scenes costs, I would guess that's very close to break even or a little better than break even. You can go to the next slide. So based on that, I looked at just what your revenue would look like at various levels of penetration or customer take up. So going from 35 to 40 to 45 to 50, I would say just with moderate marketing, you're going to end up the 45 to 50% range. I think you can easily, within 2 to 3 years, expect to have 60% penetration with the product you have. And that would translate to subscribers of, from 3,000 to 5,000, and revenues 3.5 million up to 6 million. I really like the product, the 1 gig up, 1 gig down. I think that's going to appeal to most people, but I would also like you to consider offering an upper tier and a lower tier. You're going to have some residents where the internet, because I suspect your catchment base is going to be very much like ours. You're going to have some residents that either don't want to pay $100 a month for the service or are relatively light users of internet. They might pay a few bills, peruse the odd website, but they're not streaming video. They're not doing a lot. So if you have a lower level tier for them that's a little more affordable, I think you'll see a big uptake, a big increase in your penetration rates. And there's always a certain number of people that want to have the very best, want to have something that's a little better than everybody else and are willing to pay that premium. So if you went with a profile, something like this of services offered, you're still going to be very close to your average revenue of $100 per resident, per customer. But I think you'll see more customers, and that this is essentially a numbers game. The more subscribers you have, the better off, the less risk involved. I think that pretty much concludes my portion. Willing to answer any questions.
Okay, Steve, are you going to moderate this, or should I? Or you there? Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Mr. Warden, you're at your pleasure whether you want to do it or I do it. That's fine, but I think it's better off in your hands. You might recognize the quicker than I do on the Zoom.
So we'll open the floor for questions. Hands up, and I'll recognize you, Councillor Connell.
So one of the big questions I have, just so I understand how the system's working, because I went to a meeting in my community last night, and of course everyone's watching what's going on, but I live on #1 highway, and they're actually stringing fiber op right outside my door. They were yesterday. So the question that people had last night is that why are they stringing fiber op on areas that already have fiber op offered? So is this needed to complete the services for the connection? Or why wasn't the main line put on the Clarence Road or something like that? Why on #1 where I have 2 internet providers now here on #1?
Who would answer that? Would that be?
I would be Grant Croson, Eagle Telecom.
Okay.
The answer is twofold. One, it was the route that was permitted by the previous builder. So we leveraged that early permitting process. And the second is the equipment has what's described as a backbone protection ring. And the transport, which is basically, if you think of it as you're plugging into the wall to get out to the world, that location is in Middleton. So in order to feed the other 2 equipment locations, the cable is coming down Highway 1, it goes into Bridgetown, and it also goes into Annapolis Royal in order to come to the hub locations where we then spread out to the customers.
Okay, thank you. Next question, anyone? Councillor Redden?
Well, so this is I think more of a mainland question. I'm trying to get my head around exactly how this all kind of ties together. So one thing I'm curious about, and I've not found a good reason description of, is why are the fibers called pairs, which is a little thing. But then I'm just going to kind of explain how I think it works, and you can tell me if I got it kind of right. You've got this backbone that comes down the 1, connects Middleton to Bridgetown to Annapolis Royal. And I've heard before that that's 288 pairs. So where does that go from there? Oh, like, do we have big trunks of cable going out to small places? Or is it like single fibers that go out to small places?
The network that is being built is described as a passive optical network. That means that there is no powered equipment outside of the main hub location. What you have is a single fiber feed, bidirectional. That means transmit and receive are on one single fiber. It leaves the central office, the equipment. It goes out to a cabinet. You'll see these boxes that we're putting up on the poles. They're about chest height. They're about 4 feet by 4 feet. And in those cabinets, we have what's just a splitter. So each splitter takes the signal and divides it into 32. The cables from that cabinet go out to the residents on a single fiber to the pole location where we have a box, that little terminal that I showed you, like a little suitcase. From there, you run a drop to the house, and there's a optical network termination unit, a little box that goes in the residence, and that portion is provided by Seaside. Does that help?
Term pair is a telephone term that's left over from a copper pair.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that was something I wasn't sure of. I knew we ran a single fiber for communication. I didn't know if there's another reason we called it pairs. So we've got 32 houses feeding into one box, which are then combined into a single channel on our fiber optic cable. We can have like 100 channels on a single cable. Is
No, a single fiber. There's 32. There's a splitter that goes from one fiber to 32 potential residents. And in any of those boxes, there's multiple of those splitters. So you will see these boxes every 300 or so homes. And then it accumulates back. And you mentioned 288 fiber. In fact, your network, the fiber counts go up and down based on the distribution fiber, the transport fiber required. So it's all part of a fiber design. And another factor of that is an optical loss budget based on the distance from the active devices to the home that is the farthest away. So there's a lot of little pieces that if you look at them all together are a little complicated, but if you look at them all individually, it is it's built on continuity and connectivity. So we have to make sure there's paths from every active location to every home. And one of those paths is through a passive splitter.
Okay, someone else have a question? Councillor Morrison?
Thank you. Tomorrow and for days afterwards, there are going to be people in Annapolis County looking at this meeting. And is it so that if a citizen goes to seaside.ns.ca/Annapolis, that citizen can find out when the residents will be connected?
Who's going to answer that?
So with the website, we do have the link to the Eagle mapping system, which does show those estimated dates of completion for spring, summer, and fall. So those are accessible on the website.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Councillor Sheridan?
So I got booted out a couple times, so I kind of missed part of the presentation. How much of the project is?
I think we're losing you, Councillor Sheridan.
Yeah, I think we are. You might lose me again, but I'm still here, I think. Can you hear me?
That's good. Keep going.
Okay. So I was just wondering what percentage is complete of the entire project? You might have presented it and I might have missed it.
Mr. Croson?
I believe it's around 26%.
So can I do a follow-up? So yeah. How much of the project was completed when you started? How much of the project was completed by Mainland before you took over?
Maybe 3%.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question for Seaside. I noticed that you were offering bundles. Is that right? Is that right? A bundle?
So with our normal Seaside service, we offer bundles. We have a part on the priority service form that says if you were interested in future services, they can click yes. But right now it's just internet.
What's in a bundle?
For our Seaside Communications bundles that we have here, it is cable TV, internet, and telephone services.
So will that be available in Annapolis County?
There is the possibility for IPTV services through the internet and VoIP telephone services as well.
A possibility.
Well, that's entirely up If you want to go down that route, it's our pleasure to provide those services too.
Yeah, but I guess for what you're going to do, hooking up the fiber cable, would the residents of the county be able to say, well, thank you for the internet, but I also want television and telephone?
Not initially. There's additional equipment required. The way the television rules are very strict. We have to have transmission equipment in certain areas. We can't just transmit it over the internet lines due to contracts with the suppliers. So we'd have to essentially build a head end in Annapolis. So that would take some lead time. The quickest way to market is to go with the fiber, with the internet service initially. And then if you're interested in offering television and telephone, it's probably another 10 months to a year out.
And you would have to have a certain number of people that would want that service before you would invest in that extra equipment. Is that right?
That's one of the reasons for asking. So we'll get an idea of what your take rate is. Even from how many people take the internet, we could almost estimate how many would be interested in adding the additional services. So
okay.
The numbers aren't huge that we require, but we do have to have an idea. And
fair enough. Thank you. I think you've answered my question. Anybody else? Other questions? Councillor Gunn, or Deputy Warden, sorry.
Thank you. And I'll start with, well, I've got a couple of things here, but I'll start with Eagle, please, first. How many crews do you have working? Is my interest, one of them. How many?
Two.
Just two crews?
2 line crews right now. Yep.
Two line crews. Thank you.
Did you have other questions?
Oh, yes.
Can I just from what, I'm sorry to butt in here, but the number of line crews is directly related to the work that is in front of them, make ready, that has been approved and ready to be constructed. So we have the ability to increase that when required, when we have the work in front of us.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. And so are we reliant on Bell to do a bunch of work before we can actually run our strand? Is that it? Or the first wire? We have to have Bell do the work?
It's Nova Scotia Power.
It's Nova. You're doing. I heard you mention earlier, Bell, that you had to get some approval from Bell.
Yeah, it's Bell takes the application and they have someone go out and detail the pole line, and they give us the location in what's called the communication space. That's the area that Bell controls on the pole. They tell us whether we can be front side, back side. They determine whether there's anchors required, the likes of that. And then it gets kicked over to Nova Scotia Power, and they have a look at it from a power perspective. But they also, and they do all of the work facilitation. So if there's an anchor identified by Bell, Nova Scotia Power actually provides the contractor that does the actual work at the pole.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for that. I have more here, please. Thank you.
Okay, we'll come back to you, Deputy Warden, perhaps, and I'll come back to you.
Okay.
Okay. Someone else? I saw other hands up a minute ago. Councillor Longmire.
Thank you. Going back in the meetings, and a change of contract had been struck. I'm just curious. This contract with Eagle Telecom was signed November 2019, which was said earlier in the presentation. I'm just curious, was there a business plan or presentation made to council?
Dan, would you like to address that?
Actually, I think that might really be for Hatch, but I can tell you that Eagle responded to a public RFP. So whatever happened before Eagle got involved, I'm not totally familiar with, and what council's involvement was before that, but Eagle responded to an RFP. So we did not approach council directly.
Okay.
And technically through the contract, we can't.
Mr. McGinnis, do you want to add to that?
Just the former CAO and had a lot of obviously had a lot of involvement with this, and if any questions can't be answered, we'll do the research and come back. We'll do the research in terms of the presentation or how we move forward with the Eagle Telecom contract. And Mr. McCarthy is correct. They did answer the RFP, and it was part of the first RFP call. Once we didn't have any, we concluded our business with mainland. We moved to mainland. We moved to Eagle, and went through their proposal. And all the proposals were assessed through Hatch with their technical people, and they made recommendations to staff as to the pros and cons of each of those proposals. But if there's any more specific questions in terms of a presentation, I'd have to look back on the record for that.
Thank you. Councillor Prout, you had your hand up?
Yes, thank you. I know we're all getting questions from residents, and the big question on their mind is, when are things going to happen for them? Not all of those residents currently have internet, and so they may not even be able to see this presentation. If you're looking at the Malvern Square Wilmot area, which is next to Kings County line, sort of on the north side of the 101, and I think, as I was glancing through very quickly there, somewhere around CTI 101, Strand has been strong. Other things are happening. If they have no access, I'll check into it later today, but can you give me just a rough idea? Are we looking at this spring? Would we be for possible hookup?
COM 1 north of the highway is
Yes.
spring of 2021.
Okay, that's what I assume, but thank you very much. That's good news if it's this spring. Thank you.
Other questions? Councillor Connell?
Mine's along what Bruce was speaking about over in the Margaret's area. Some of them don't have internet. Some have very poor internet that goes in and out, like Councillor Sheridan's is going today. Is there any way that a flyer could go out with an update on the projection of the system so residents know? One of the things I'm getting is that Bell is over in the East Margaret's area hooking up now. So their question is, well, who's bringing the internet to us? Is the county's bringing theirs over here, or is Bell supplying us? That's what I'm getting from residents. But I think one of the biggest things is that I'm going along with Councillor Prout, is that we can do whatever we want on a website, but we're talking our rural communities that have not got the capability for the website. So we can put everything we want up on our screens. We can do all the presentations we want, but it means nothing to somebody that can't even get it, or it's in and out so bad that they get discouraged and shut the thing off anyway. So that's what I'm asking is that through promotions, and I see that you only had 300 and some people sign up, and that could be part of the problem is that they don't even know there's a sign up area to put their name forward. So I think that if through communications that it should be a different idea to how to get out to the rural communities. Just don't depend on the internet, because a lot of us don't, in my area, doesn't even have it, or it's so poor they do get discouraged.
I think that's for Seaside to respond to.
Hi. So that's definitely a great suggestion there, and just to go with everything that's happened with those 346 people that have signed up. So most of them have been through the website itself, but we can definitely look at getting some update billboards put up through the area, based on your guys' suggestions. Like if anybody has suggestions on areas where we are actually able to put up any billboards or posters or anything like that within the areas, we would definitely be open to those suggestions.
Well, right now, the problem is that, and everyone else knows, it's a COVID. So all of our community halls in our rural communities are not having any events. Our fire departments don't go there unless they're going to a fire. So again, trying to get the news out to residents is very hard that way. If it was a fire that went to the mailbox, they would definitely get it. But putting a poster up, other than sticking it up at a grocery store, which are all on our main routes, again, our rural customers are getting short-sighted again. They're not getting the information.
I was thinking more sort of large outdoor billboards.
Well, if I could interject, I tend to agree with Councillor Connell, and I learned during my campaigning this fall that it's very, very cheap to send out a flyer to everybody in the district. It's a very reasonable cost to just have one sheet of paper that you go to the post office and you set out the area that you want it to distribute it in, and it's very reasonable. So I would recommend that might be something to follow.
Yeah, no, well, we can do that.
Next, who else do we look at here? We're going back to the Deputy Warden, perhaps? You're muted there, Deputy Warden.
Thank you. I'll pop a question in here, and this would be for Eagle as well. So these pop-up locations you refer to, and we've put one in Middleton and Annapolis and other places. Can the locations of these easily be changed? Because in years down the line, a lot of buildings become obsolete. Things move, right? So can these pop-up locations be easily moved would be one question. And I'm going to give you a follow-up right on it that you could probably maybe morph into afterwards. With this technology on these maps that you've created, so that we can look at the poles, the one thing and another. Has Annapolis County not paid for the technology? I know that, but paid for what's being built from them? And if so, will we maintain that afterwards or retain that afterwards? Or is that something that Eagle Telecom owns forever, that information? Thank you.
Okay, first off, with it's called a POP. And it's an acronym for point of presence. Mm-hmm. So it's a location. No, the short answer is no, they're not easily moved. They can be moved in a worst case scenario, but they were selected based on the longevity of the location. For instance, the one in Middleton is a brand new extension on a building, and I believe it's a 20-year lease. As long as the county maintains the property at the back of Bridgetown, you're there indefinitely. And as long as the building is standing in Annapolis Royal, again, you're there indefinitely. So the second part of the question, all of the records are provided as an as-built package. So at the end of the project, you will receive network diagrams, splicing records, all of the terminal locations with addresses. You'll be given electronic copies of all the mapping and the construction plans with meterages and all of everything necessary to take the package away.
Yeah, and I guess just to add to that, I think more direct to the question is just think of it like any other infrastructure that a contractor would build, and then you guys are going to own. You will own it afterwards, after it's built. So,
okay, thank you for now.
I wanted to add just one small thing to that as well. As part of the RFP, the locations for the POPs were identified to us. They weren't chosen by us.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to take a turn. I've got a question for Mr. Crowson. there's, are you familiar where Rumsey Lake is?
No, I'm sorry, I don't, no.
Can you look at the map, pull up the map, and there's an area that's north of Bridgetown. It's on the Arlington Road, and on the map it's white. And
Yes.
it looks like there's not going to be any internet hookup in that area. Is that what's going on there? There's if I could just expand a bit. Bell comes down the Arlington Road, south of Port Lorne, and then Bell ends, and then what we're doing doesn't hook up with Bell. There's a gap on the Arlington Road. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the area. I understand that Hatch and the council identified that as a possible Universal Broadband Fund project. When we first received the project mapping, that area was excluded.
Well, there's people that live on that road that are calling me and saying, am I going to get internet? What's the answer to the question?
We would wait for direction from Hatch or the county to include that in the build.
So that would be an extra build, would it? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. It was not identified in the original contract footprint.
Okay.
We're applying for funding, but I think that's what Steve wants to
Mr. McGinnis, were you going to say something?
Yeah, if I may. So there's been a significant and rapid change in terms of the funding available through different levels of government, one being the universal broadband with the federal government, and then the Develop Nova Scotia funding, which is the 95% I think is their marketing scheme of getting out to 95% of the public, rural public, and then their CTI funding. And as I said, it's changing rapidly. Develop Nova Scotia has awarded round, what they've called round one of their funding, which is has provided and moved into some of the areas we had originally anticipated. They're looking at round two, and specifically some of the areas that we were looking at to access universal broadband funding. They've already they're looking at approving it. One example I can think of is down Highway 10 around Trout Lake and those areas. So and then also down Highway 8 from Annapolis Royal down to Milford House, which we had not anticipated in our original build. So they're providing funding to providers to do that. And as I said, some of those areas we weren't even aware they were approved until yesterday when we had a phone meeting with them. So we've committed to kind of coordinate our operations. They're very sensitive to not award funding that comes in competition with us. I think we should review that. I don't mind. I don't think the county should mind competing with anybody, given the package that we're presenting. But there is other various options, funding options that will has a distinct possibility of providing internet services to those areas that we did not anticipate providing services to because of the construction costs or the densities that we looked at 4 years ago. It's a completely different picture now.
Thank you. Other questions? Councillor Redden.
So back down the technical side of things again. Previously, it had been kind of said about our fiber build out that we shouldn't be using multiplexing. I'm aware that this is a very broad term, and I was wondering if you could comment on the type of multiplexing we are using, because from your description, I think that's exactly what we're doing. And I think it's very appropriate from my understanding of how these systems get built. I was also wondering if you could kind of give us an idea on the life expectancy of our non-fiber infrastructure, the various doodads at the end of the wires.
To answer that question, I'd actually like to draw on Shane from Seaside. Shane, are you there? You can answer.
I am, yes. Right now, the customer end of the equipment, the ONT, That's what's there to provide the 1 gigabit to the customer. If the customer needs more bandwidth, I mean, that customer shares with 32 other customers 2.488 gigabit on the downstream. So they can go to like a 1.5 or a 2. But if they needed anything more than that, let's say we get into the 10 gig side of things. Well, there's equipment that can go in the head end that could allow just change out the ONT at the customer's end, and they now have access to a 10 gig connection instead of but again, that's additional equipment that would have to be installed, but it is capable of doing that. It's a very, very flexible platform that Adtran provides. Is that what you're kind of looking at, the long-term type of thing? If things start getting beyond the 1 gigabit?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my question is referring to long-term expandability, because it's pretty clear that the actual fiber cable has a huge amount of capacity we're not using. My question was about like kind of speaking to frequency multiplexing versus just straight feeding everything down the same cable at the same frequency versus amplitude multiplexing and stuff like that.
Oh, this is yeah, I understand what you're getting there. Well, see, when we're talking about optics, we're talking about wavelengths instead of frequencies and amplitude modulation, like that's used in CATV and radio today. It's basically you're going to have one strand of fiber going to the customer's house. One wavelength feeds the downstream, the other wavelength feeds upstream on that. And once that fiber is in place, the technology basically can, go from a 1 gig to a 10 gig to a 40 gig to 100 gig. I think there's even multi 100 gig capabilities out there, obviously at a astronomical expense, but the technology is there, because once you get the fiber, you can put anything on it as whatever the technology dictates.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, thanks. I mean, your guys' technical answers have been really great as far as making them accessible as well. So thank you all very much for that. That's all I have for now.
Other questions? Councillor Longmire?
After reviewing a press release that was put out on October 17th, 2019, I quote, "Our citizens can expect fiber optic internet speeds to equal or exceed the highest speeds anywhere found in Canada." And I am actually one of the 27-ish% persons who will not receive this this service. I'm just wondering what the citizens in areas, what we can actually expect, and as well, I do remember a pamphlet that had circulated from Eagle Telecom talking about the services, and there was a telephone number and address on that pamphlet. So at the time, I had wanted to reach out and ask that very question. And when I did, the telephone number had been disconnected, and it was to an office in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Just wondering if I could get them.
I'd be very interested if you had that telephone number, because Grant actually is in that office in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, and we have never disconnected a telephone. We did switch to an IP phone system, but the incoming line remains the same. We've actually added phone numbers. So I'd be interested as to what you did that was disconnected. Our office is at 10 Morse Drive, Unit 11. 10 Morse Drive, Unit 10 is our construction partner, K-Line Construction. And at any point, we would like to invite any or all of you within any COVID rules to come to our office, and we can walk you through any of this. We can show you the equipment, show you the strand and fiber and any of that stuff that you're interested in. And I'm offering that, and my office is not in Dartmouth, so I guess Grant is going to agree to that invitation.
Absolutely.
Mr. McGinnis?
Just on underserved areas, I'm going to circle back to the conversation or to the points I made previously. I'm also in the same boat as Councillor Longmire. I currently have satellite internet, and not a bad service, but I'm right between the two proposed routes, the new one that we discovered yesterday down Highway 8 and the one coming up Clownsvale Road. And I guess staff is going to be working with those grant providers, or some of them are grants, some of them are loans, to reach our fingers out as far as possible with this internet build. And that was, I believe, always the intent. We'll do the main build, as council knows. We have some towers waiting in the wings to provide that last mile connection. But what we've seen over the last week really is new information about actually extending fiber to those areas that we had anticipated we would have to go with last mile. It's just going to extend that reach, but we need to work with those agencies to see how far we can get in terms of an actual fiber build beyond what we had originally anticipated.
Deputy Warden, you had more questions?
Thank you. I have several more questions, but I'll start with two simple ones, maybe. And first of all, and these are all for Seaside. Thank you. How many customers are actually hooked to our service so far? That's a simple question.
Okay, so we actually have 10 pilot project participants, so we call them friendlies.
All right, thank you. So now my next question is a little more in depth, and I don't know if that's for which one of you, so I'll just put it out there. So years ago, we always thought that the one thing Annapolis County was hoping is that when citizens realized that Annapolis County was getting a return as well from this internet project, just not the money spent back, but we were actually going to receive a portion of the profits in the end. So we've never heard of this anymore. And council has never heard any more about this. At one time, it was almost up in the air from what we understood with actual a sharing of the profits. So I want to know, you know, and the point of this was if Annapolis County was getting a share of the profits in the end, which we should, that would encourage citizens to sign on to the service, right? And it would, because it would be their service. It'd be like putting money in your own back pocket. So I want to know, and I'll stop at this one for now, how much of will the County of Annapolis receive in the end when this business is up and running?
Hi, Councillor Gunn. The deal is you pay Seaside so much per customer. It's in the agreement how much per customer. I would rather not disclose that in a public forum. Everything above what you pay us accrues to the county.
Yeah, but how much is that?
It's going to depend on the number of customers times the difference between what you charge for the service. Our fee is a fixed rate for the 5 years. So you pay us, if it's one subscriber, you pay us X dollars and you charge X plus to get to your 100. You get X plus the 100. If I'll make the same offer Dan did. If you want me to go down there and go through the agreement and what it will likely look for the county with you and your financial people, I'd be more than happy to make that offer. Following all the COVID rules, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I think, Deputy Warden, the reality is that we're taking the risk.
Yeah.
Depending on the take up of the project, that if not many people take it up, then we might have some financial issues. And if a lot of people take it up, we might make some money. And I don't think we're going to be sharing in the profit. I think the profit is ours or the loss is ours, is my understanding.
Well, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that. You see, a lot of us didn't realize that, how it all worked in the end. How it, at one time there was a talk, and I don't want to rehash this, that we would get 2% when the project was done. that changed obviously along the way. Now we're going to own it all. And so if I can understand this correct, just to finish up with this, Seaside Communication is only going to work for Annapolis County for 5 years. Is that right?
No, that was, the agreement was for 5 years at that price. If you want to continue the agreement, we're more than happy to continue it ad infinitum. Well, and I believe our CEO has already made the offer that if for some reason you can find, another provider that you think will do a better job than us, we'd be willing to stand aside. So you have the best of all worlds in this deal. But we're confident that once you see how we provide the service, once you see how we treat the customers, we're not really concerned about anybody leaving us, customers or the county.
Good enough. Thank you.
Councillor Morrison?
Thank you. We've had a lot of discussions over the years about this program. And just because we don't discuss every aspect of the program in all its intricacies, every time we have a conversation, does not in any way mean that those items have been thrown aside or are no longer in force. They have not been thrown aside and they are still in force. And I think there is a desire to know more about the financial aspects. And I think we could probably go into those at another time in another place. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Connell?
So I've had calls on that obviously they've watched the cable being run and they say that we're missing out on a short section between, like you said, between Bell or Alliant or another provider. They feel they're being missed out because our system seems to be stopping where they apparently have seen them put the strand or the fiber op. Is there any way that how do we identify, or is there any way for us to identify where Alliant or Bell gives support and where our system's going to go to? If I go up Gates Mountain and someone calls and says, well, we're in between two systems and we're not getting any service, how do I know where the systems are? Like, when I go on the map, will it identify exactly where the civic number, where the system's going to stop on Gates Mountain, our system?
Yes.
Yeah.
So then I can call people in that area and they say, no, we do have Alliant or Bell fiber op. I can kind of look at, because I can go on property online or whatever, or use that map there and identify if there's 5 houses being missed in the system. But could those 5 houses be hooked? If a box was put at that last site, is it going to be a single strand to those 5 houses possibly?
The only thing that it depends how far away they are from the main cable.
Yeah.
If they're 100 meters, 200 meters, 300 meters, they can be reached with a drop. If they're 500 meters to a kilometer, then the build would most likely have to be extended. But that's not with the outside the realm of possibilities. We just need direction.
Okay. No, that's what I was wondering.
Councillor Connell, one of my residents in Port Lorne provided me with a map of the work that Bell was doing in their area. And it allowed me to find the civic number at the end of where Bell was going to do the work. And Bell is coming down the Clarence Road where I live. And I then could go on our own website for our own work and find out where the two were going to meet. And in fact, they're meeting 3 doors down from my house. So I don't know how to find that Bell map, which is similar to our map, but if maybe somebody could contact Bell, you can try and put the two together, because when you look at our map, for example, you see the Port Lorne area is just nothing there. And the reason it's nothing is because Bell's doing that. So you need kind of the two to put together to find out who's taking care of who.
Okay.
Other questions?
You can put any address in our map as well, and it'll tell you. So
yeah,
if you want to put in the address, it will tell you whether or not it'll show you whether or not it's serviced.
That'll show you even if Bell's serving us?
If it's in the map area that you have, the dot will pop up.
But the question was, if it's part of Bell's work and not ours, will it show up?
If that part of the map is in the area that we show, like you don't have the whole province, so it's hard for me to just generally say yes. But if you can visually see the region, if it's just beyond us by a couple of poles, it will show up. It'll show the dot beyond our service area. But if it's significantly more than the amount of map that's been cut out, it won't show, because that home wouldn't be in the visible area.
Mr. McGinnis, you want to add to that?
That's kind of when we're going through the dry run presentations yesterday and in conversations with CTI folks and Universal Broadband folks and Develop Nova Scotia, staff is going to try and put that map together about who are all the service providers in those specific areas and which program is looking at extending services beyond our initial build. It'll take a while, but that's one of the things that staff would like to work on going forward.
If I could pick up on that, is there some way that the website that Seaside was talking about, that you get on by going onto their website and doing the seaside.ca.ns / Annapolis? Can we put that on our website so that people wanting information from the county can get that from our website?
Yeah, we'll try and yes is the short answer. And again, through comments that I've heard today and discussions we've had with both Seaside and Eagle in terms of our communication to the public, we want to certainly reach out to those people who don't have internet service, and we also want to provide access points through our current websites that are much simpler to get to, and direct them to Seaside or to the county itself in terms of questions. I did hear during the presentations about getting a hold of Hatch. I think we're going to sit down with Eagle, Seaside, and Hatch, and we'll come up with a more straight line communication plan for the public to access in terms of getting information to them as quickly as possible. It's those, if I can say, the web pages, as simple as they may seem for those that are immersed in it, they aren't quite as simple for those that aren't. So we're gonna work on a presentation that's more helpful to the public.
Ms. Campbell, did you want to add to that?
Just to clarify and follow up on what Steve said, we can't really put it on our website, but what we can do is link to it from our website. So provide a way to get to it from our website.
Right. I think that would be helpful. Other questions? Deputy Warden?
Thank you. So I want to go now. This is for Seaside. The rate that I see that I saw there was 100 for 1.5 Mbps, whatever that is. I don't know. It's $125. For one, it's 99. For 500, it's 75. One of the things, the former council, and I hope this council as well, what we wanted to do was when accessing properties, we also know that there's a lot of people can't afford $100 a month. We talked about this a long time ago. $100 a month, a lot of people can't afford $75 a month. But we thought that where it was the county's thing, that we would be able to offer half the speed for $50 a month. because the way I look at it now is at $100 for your basic 1 Mbps, $100. Well, you can get half as much again for 125, or half that amount for 75. So it really doesn't make a lot of sense to me, that pricing structure. And one of the things Annapolis County wanted before with this project was everybody to be hooked up and affordable. Thank you. And so I just wonder about that rate structure. Was this something we agreed on, or you guys agreed on?
No, that was just suggested. Right now, the county has only identified one service. It's 1 gig up, 1 gig down for $99. So that's the only product that the county will be selling initially. That was just a suggestion on my part, purely on my part, as a way to accommodate some of those people that are going to be looking for a lower rate, and accommodate some of those people that are going to be looking for the very best or fastest service they can get. It's just to broaden the scope of the market accessible to you.
All right.
Whatever services you offer, that's entirely up to the county. You can elect to offer whatever services you want at whatever price you want. The only impact it will have will be on the viability of the network and ultimately the amount of money that you can pull out of the project or that will accrue to the county itself. So,
and if
it might be worthwhile to have somebody go down there and just sort of walk you through what different rates might look like to your bottom line.
Thank you. So the 10 people that are hooked up now, are they paying?
No.
So how long has that been carried on for? How long is it going to go?
Until the plant is commissioned.
All right.
So it's a way for us to work any bugs out of the system. So we'll use them as guinea pigs essentially. If we'll test our call center through them, we'll test if there's issues with support. When we do the install, we'll get feedback on how the install went, whether it was installed properly, whether Wi-Fi works all the way through the home, or whether there's dead spots in certain areas. We do that in almost any new build we do to work out the kinks out of our internal processes to make sure when a customer calls up that their experience is going to be the best that it can be.
All right, thank you.
Councillor LeBlanc?
Yes, thank you. I think the customers that have been hooked up more or less 3 or 4 months. And did you receive any feedback from those customers in any particular area that should be important to us or that we can know about?
Yes, so with those 10 friendlies, part of the agreement was that we would be in frequent contact with them. So once a week, we go and speak to them to see how they're getting along with their service. They provide feedback with their speed test results, anybody that has multiple devices, what they're running on, what they're trying to do with the internet, that sort of thing, how they're getting along. So we've been getting regular feedback from them on that.
And with your feedback, if I may, Mr. Warden, have you seen a lot of positive comments or have you picked up?
Overall majority positive, and anything that has been a technical, any little issues, anything like that, they've been rectified. So everything has been positive so far.
So are they, and one more, are they hooked up to 1 gigabytes or more or less?
So speeds up to 1 gigabit per second upload and download.
So that's what all 10 customers are hooked up to?
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? Councillor Longmire?
Thank you. I believe this perhaps Steve McInnes could help me understand this. So going back in the conversation where you had spoke about an RFP going out, I'm just curious because there's been many citizens asking the question, why did we go with a New Brunswick company? And if there were other Nova Scotia companies that had responded to that RFP.
Mr. McGinnis or Mr. Catino?
Yeah,
With an RFP process, it really is not fair to ask how the people who submitted the applications. It's a determination that we make as an organization, and depending on who supplied. And I didn't see myself because I wasn't around, but the process is quite open. We would have examined those who had submitted proposals and selected the one that was most cost effective for us. So if that's okay with the council, I think it's a process that's really our process. And the fact that we selected a company that was outside, at this stage, it looks like we selected a really good company, who's delivering quite well on all of the things that we had expected. So this is, I think the process worked out well for us.
Thank you.
Other questions? Councillor Connell?
So again, I'll just ask, because I know those 10 hookups are in my district, if I could have those names so I could go visit them and talk to them myself and see how they're doing and how they, and get their expressions of how the internet's working for them.
Definitely, I can definitely supply those to you.
Thank you.
What I would like to do is if I could go and ask their permission to provide that information to you first.
Sure.
Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Hudson?
Yes, this is just for my own clarification. Just regarding the some numbers given early on in the presentation. And if I recall correctly, there was mention, this has to do with the potential sign up of subscribers. But I recall a number of 8,400 and it may have been 39. And I understood that to be households. Is that the households that do not have internet service, or the total households in the area?
That is the total number of homes that we have provided an access point to. So that box that's on the pole, it's the total number of homes. They may already have some form of service, but we have provisioned in order to approach those customers.
Oh, just to further clarification then, is that we will be basically in competition with the other service providers in the area, such as Bell and Shaw?
In some regions, yes.
Thank you.
Other questions? Other questions? I see the deputy warden has left us. He seemed like he had more, I thought, but Deputy Warden, are you finished there?
No, I had one more. Thank you. I just waiting, letting other people talk. There's a name it kept coming up in this whole process with mainland and our negotiations here, and that's Gary Falloon. And I'm kind of wondering, with where we're at today and what we're going to be stucking, if someone from Mr. Falloon's office is going to be here to represent them.
Mr. Falloon was our lawyer and he was involved in the internet. I think he was involved in the drafting the contract and he was involved in the litigation, but those files have been transferred from the Rod Gillis law firm where he practices to Cox and Palmer.
Oh, I see. It's because he wrote the termination for convenience, that whole thing there, and I was wondering. Okay, thank you. That's good. Thank you, Warden.
Other questions? Mr. Coutinho?
Warden, if I could comment on the budget. I know Councillor Morrison raised the question on having a discussion on the budget. I think probably not a bad idea to have let people know that we've actually borrowed
when I say borrowed, there's a debenture for about $30 million for this project. And we do have to pay back that borrowing. And so right now it's over 15 years. So there's an annual interest rate. Well, annually we'll be paying roughly $866,000. So when we're looking at the fee structure and whatnot, just recognize, I guess, council has to recognize that in order to be able to pay back what we owe on the $13 million project, we also have to use some of these revenues that we will be getting for this. So whatever revenue we strike, and I think the Seaside was trying to explain to us that they've worked a formula that where they keep some of the money, we get some of the revenue. At the end of the day, it's all taxpayers' money, and so it's you have a combination of user fees, area rates, tax rates, and each one of these is controversial in itself. But we do have to pay our bills, and that's something that we can have a conversation with council on what's the best balance. You do have to pay for the service. That's how these private companies work when they provide you service for any of the services. So just recognize, I think, at the end of the day that we did borrow a certain amount of money, and we do have to pay back that money. And our director of finance certainly, I know she has sleepless nights, wondering how we're going to pay for this all. And this is how we will pay for it. It's the revenues that we will make out of the project will go towards paying the interest costs and all of the annual costs. So I just wanted to make that comment publicly since the council raised it, and probably we've never had that conversation in an open forum, but it might be it might be appropriate for us to do so when we do come down to the final numbers. Thank you.
Councillor Redden.
Yeah, thanks. This is kind of, I think, more to Steve. He's talked a little bit on it. You talked about, in the future extending out Route 10 and Route 8. So, I mean, my district goes way out Route 10 to Springfield, and there are two big concerns out there. We're getting the bushes cut off the side of the highway and internet. What they'd been told was pretty mixed, and I was wondering if you had anything more you could elaborate on about the funding for out that way, or for anything there, really.
Right now, other than what I've already stated, as I said, we saw the mapping from Develop Nova Scotia yesterday that was down Highway 10. So it's really new information even to us, but it's way beyond what we had anticipated those services going. Likely a different provider, won't be us, but they're looking at all applications to extend that beyond the initial build, I'll call it commercial build, because the province's program, the $200 million trust, I believe, is working towards getting 95% of the population of Nova Scotia hooked up to broadband internet. And then whatever kind of terminus points we have beyond all these programs that are now in play, we do have those towers that can provide us with line of sight internet for those households or groups of households that where fiber is just not viable. But it's a work in progress. And as we found out yesterday and even last week, it's an ever-changing picture in terms of who's releasing funds. But we've committed, the province, certainly Develop Nova Scotia, is committed to work with us so that we work with each other and not against each other to get the internet as a broader reach as possible.
Thanks, Steve.
Anything else? Any other questions? No? Well, then I'd like to thank our presenters very much. This has been very informative, and I'm really pleased that this was put together. I want to thank our staff for putting this together and allowing us to ask our questions for the benefit of all the residents of the county. I think it's answering a lot of questions that a lot of people had, and I think it's been a really good thing to do this morning. And I'm pleased that we did it on Zoom because of the weather outside. So it all came together pretty well, I think. So we're going to say goodbye at this point in time to our presenters, and I want to thank them very much. And we're going to continue our meeting, our committee of the whole meeting. We're going to have a very short, going to go in camera for a very short time to pursuant to section 22 2F, just to discuss the existing litigation that we have on the internet. So Carolyn, can you confirm when we have just the counselors and staff on?
I will confirm that, yeah.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yes,
very much appreciated.
It was
you guys have a good day and stay safe.
Thank you to Seaside.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We have
So-
staff and council present.
Okay. So as I said, we're going to have a short in-camera meeting to discuss the existing litigation. So I would entertain a motion to go in camera. Deputy Warden moves. Councillor Sheridan seconds. Is there any discussion about going in camera for that purpose? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. We've now come out of the in-camera portion of our meeting, and we're now back in the public portion of the meeting. There's nothing else on the agenda. This was a special committee of the whole meeting to discuss whatever we could and update the residents with respect to our internet project. So unless there's anything else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, Councillor Redden, did you want to say something?
It was briefly alluded to in the ancillary things of the in camera that Janice had a couple of things to add about funding avenues, was it? Or no, it was Bell's coverage area, I think. Was that there? That we said we can't talk about it in camera because it's a public camera thing. And then Mr. McGinnis made a couple comments about line of sight towers. I was wondering if we can talk about those.
Yes, I think it's.
Mr. McGinnis, can you respond to that briefly?
In terms of the line of sight towers, they're always intended to kind of pick up where the fiber left off, and where the fiber is going to be terminated or left off is a bit of a moving target right now because of all the other programs in place. So we have to work that out with the other agencies, and at the end of the day, the end result will be a farther reach for our internet, regardless of who the parties are or who the providers are. But right now, we kind of have to get a better picture of where the fiber is going to end, and then it will give us a better idea of where the towers can be located and the services we can provide into which part of the county. But right now, we don't know that because the fiber is moving forward and way beyond what we thought initially.
Anything else, Councillor Bartel?
So the towers that are in storage, their actual locations are not cast in stone. And they're to be determined.
That's correct.
Other questions, comments before we adjourn? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Barteau moves. Councillor Khan seconds. Any discussion on the motion to adjourn? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.